Hi guys, welcome to Verdon. I'm Ellie Bear, and today we're doing something a little bit different. This is in support of the Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm joined by Nathan from Hitmarker, and what we're going to do is we're going to look a little bit closer at mental health in the esports industry. Not just in the industry itself, though, but how video games can also kind of have an impact on negative mental health and how we don't talk about it. So yeah, hi Nathan.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Look
That's
forward to
okay.
speaking about some deep,
Yeah,
deep and deep conversations
yeah,
and deep
today is
topics.
going to be pretty deep. So I guess I kind of want to kick off with a question of like, so we both know that esports can be quite a toxic kind of industry. It's something that we've both kind of dealt with, but have there been any particular times when it's just kind of you've just looked at esports and just thought this this is not right for my head? This like has have you been lucky enough to kind of not have to deal with your mental health just completely going down the drain because of esports, or has there been anything that's just kind of made you think, no, I can't do this?
Mm. Yeah, I think there's been many moments like that, struggling wise, but esports has always been my outlet for it. Do you know what I mean? So it tends to be sure when work's heavy and people are saying nasty things. I think the second part of that when people are saying nasty things, like it's getting shouted at for squeaking a ball. Um, when people are saying nasty things, it doesn't bother me too much, to be honest. I grew up in Call of Duty. That really prepared me for that. I grew up in the Call of Duty scene, so now when I get any backlash on socials, it's quite easy for me to step away and say, all right, that's not attacking me directly. I think it's different when it's attacking the brand maybe that you're working on, and then it's attacking specifically the work that you do is a little bit more difficult to take. But overall, it doesn't bother me too much. But obviously, personal life happens, things happen, lockdown happens, all these other things, like all these other external factors, you can't really maybe alter occur, and you maybe can't prepare for them, but that's the wonderful life that we all signed up for, hey. So esports is tend to, and the job and my work has tended to be, okay, if I'm struggling outside, then I come here to pump and kind of that fuel goes elsewhere into the work that I do. um Funny enough, that being said, only recently this year I think I've struggled to maybe use it as fuel. Whereas in the past, when it's happened, it didn't really feel too. Sure, it was a struggle, but it didn't feel maybe too real because I just had the outlet of my work to kind of focus on, and keep me distracted, which I really appreciated. I think this year it's only hit me a little bit more, and why that is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't maybe understand it too much, but I think overall, I'm pretty thick skin when it comes to comments. Stuff that doesn't bother me. It's especially when it's strangers on the internet. It's like, what value do they have to say? I think I said on the podcast the other day, which I absolutely will reiterate 1,000 million times, is that not everybody's opinion is valuable. I think a lot of people these days like to say everybody has something valuable to say. Not everybody does, and that's okay. There's not a one size fits all. Some people say some really valuable things on social media. Some people don't, and you just shouldn't take what they say as any worth at all. And sometimes when you look at it like that, you cross off a big portion of people that are saying stupid things just to get a reaction from your reality, or just to bring your day down, right? So now that I've changed my outlook on that, it's never bothered me, to be honest. Different, if it's, but yeah, I got into a discussion with someone the other day about like Twitter arguments. I don't think I've been in a Twitter argument since like 2019. I just stay out of that stuff. But another thing that I think is really valuable that I learned is that you don't owe anybody a response. I used to think back in the day, mainly down to like my social media and community management skills, was that I had to like every tweet or respond to every tweet on my personal account. Do I fuck have to? I'm sorry if I
No,
swear.
no, go ahead, get it all
Yeah.
out.
Dude, do I fuck have to respond to every single person? Of course I don't. I owe them nothing. Do you know what I mean? If somebody wants to respond to me and question me about something that I've tweeted, they are not owed a single response in the world. If I think, okay, I'm gonna have a discussion with them, I can do that. If I don't think that, I don't have to do that. And it's pure freedom. You get that blissful feeling then of not having to kind of owe anybody anything on socials. And especially this day with our industry, social media being like the core pillar of it, it's sometimes difficult to lose yourself up in the fake reality that kind of social media has built. So yeah, I went on many tangents there, but I think, yeah, hopefully that answers.
It does. So, kind of going on that, I you've obviously been in a position before where you've kind of unintentionally been on the end of obviously Twitter hate brigading. You've obviously in your previous work you've just been the social media manager who's not been responsible for the decisions of things that have happened, but you've been on the end of like torrents of abuse. And kind of how did you kind of take that when that used to happen? Obviously now that you're with Hitmarker, it's you're not really kind of getting abused for things that aren't your decision, because there's not really anything to give you abuse for. But obviously esports fans can be quite passionate, and when things upset them, it doesn't matter who they're in front of. You were essentially in the firing line. And how did that kind of end up in your head?
I think, yeah, I maybe answered a little bit before, because one important piece of advice that any social media manager has to take on board is you cannot take it personally. You cannot. Doesn't matter what the people are saying, even if it's about like targeted towards your work. Do not take it personally. One, this person in social media, question, okay, who is this? Is it a valuable member of our community? If so, okay, let's take on board what they have to say. If some stranger that's just set up his account recently, then they're not valuable at all. Like these are separate entities, and that needs to be clear. But you cannot take it personally, especially when, yeah, for the example that you gave, if other decisions, obviously the social media manager doesn't make any of the team decisions, doesn't make any of the internal decisions, other than it's our job to kind of post and populate the social channels and engage with our audience. So yeah, I just didn't take it personally. Sure, it sucked to know that information internally and then have to announce it. But that's my job. That's what you sign up for. Do you know what I mean? As a social media manager, you have to polish certain things and push it out there, regardless if people like it or not. That's your job. So that's the reality of it. But yeah, just never take it personally, because it's not a personal attack to you. Fans are passionate, and sometimes passion turns into a little bit of hatred to some degree, unfortunately, and some get a little bit too passionate and say things maybe that are a little bit out of line, and we see it all the time with any time an organization announces something that maybe doesn't please the fans, and that's good to some degree, because the fans will let you know in this industry if they're not happy with it. But to another degree, I think they very easily forget that their tweets are probably not going to be read by the person that has made the decision, and instead is only going to be read by the people that run the social media accounts, right? I think another point to that is, yeah, there is no other true outlet to go down to expressing your opinions, right? It's only down to giving maybe hate or directing hate towards that organization is when change is gonna happen. We see it all the time, right? And realistically, most times social media managers and community managers are like collating this feedback, sharing it internally. So look, it's not like it's just us that's taking this burden. The whole company knows that the fans are not happy, and the decision makers know that the fans are not happy too. Do you know what I mean? So it's on them to action that if they do. So yeah, in reality, don't take it personally. You cannot take it personally. It's not a personal attack to you. Never will be a personal attack to you. So you cannot even look at that and think, oh my God, that's directed towards me, because it's not. And that takes time, of course. I'm a little bit lucky that I did it for a long time, and even more so with my own brand, which is that I'd even say an owner of a brand should never really have access to like the brand's social media accounts, because they do take it too personally. It's your baby. Do you know what I mean? It's everything to you. Where in actual fact you shouldn't take it personally at all. So yeah, that's my overarching like piece of advice there.
Fair. So as you already know, I set up a anonymous box last night for people to kind of submit the problems that they've had with video games and how that's affected their mental health. So I just kind of want to break some of these down, because reading them, kind of, I know that it struck a chord with me, and it'll probably strike a chord with you as well. So the first one that I've got was, sometimes things people say in game actually really hurt and can put me off of a game entirely. And I just want to say that I totally agree with that. The amount of times that I just don't want, like you, I grew up in the Call of Duty scene. I was used to it then, but for some reason League hurts, and I don't like playing Summoner's Rift because of the fact that League hurts. But as well, I also kind of don't like the outlet of like, oh, it's just words on the internet, it can't hurt you. So like, I don't know, what's your kind of outlook on that?
It's a difficult one because like these are never going to go away. Do you know what I mean? Like the reality of it, there's always going to be someone that's going to say nasty things. It doesn't matter what the rules are in place. Sure, I think many brands, especially right at the moment, if we're talking about League and Valorant, could do a lot more in reality to kind of thin this out and actually punish these people for doing these things. However, it doesn't matter how much they do that, there's always going to be people like that. Do you know what I mean? People will always have access to do that and say nasty things if they want to. That's never going to go, unfortunately. So my piece of advice is like, it sounds really basic and simple and not everyone likes to hear it, but dude, if someone is saying nasty things to me, fucking mute them. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got nothing valuable to say, you know? But then I think the argument is, well, I come in to play a game, and if I mute them, then they just like shoot my body or something. Then you just report them. Do you know what I mean? Like, you report them and hope for the best. I know that's not the best thing sometimes, because sometimes that report leads to nothing. Sometimes it does. To be fair, most of the time it does. Every time I've reported someone, they've gone. You know what I mean? Or at least I get the notification saying that some action's been taking place. But yeah, don't get yourself worked up about it. Don't give them reaction unless you're built for that and you genuinely like. Because some people genuinely, whether they do it for content or they like the confrontation, will try to get a reaction from the person that's trying to get a reaction from them, and then it turns into just absolute chaos, right? I think my recommendation would be, whatever type of person you are, just mute them, get rid of them, report them after the game. Even if, I know there's some rare cases, unfortunately, where it's like four versus one, and you just can't play the game because you've got 4 trolls on your team. Just get through the game, whatever happens, just get through that 30-40 minutes and get out, report them all, write something and submit it. What I would recommend even further is, if you can, I know the general person can't do this, is reach out to someone at Riot that you know, ideally, and have that access there. That would be helpful, or have access to some kind of community manager, or any access to the company or the game that you're playing, so you can maybe report directly, especially if it's something outlandish. And then lastly, like, if it does happen on a regular basis, and like I can't say it does to me, one, I hardly play Valorant because I'm awful at it. But on League it happens on a regular basis, mainly because it's typing. But I know because I'm a male, I don't get it often. I don't get it like often enough in Valorant. If it does happen often to you, and if you have the accessibility to do it on your computer, OBS, record your games, start recording your games, and record what these people say. Do you know what I mean? That is more than enough evidence that you need. You can go to Riot, their support system, and submit it directly there. You can upload it on YouTube and link to them directly. You can tweet the community manager if it says something vile. Like, do that. OBS is free to download if your PC can handle, like, you. Realistically, I don't think it puts any stress on your PC when just recording too. Yeah, so record the games. You might as well. And look, if nothing said that game, go into the file and delete it. You don't want to be holding up gigabytes of recorded files that you're not going to use. So I think that's maybe not spoken about enough. If you genuinely want to catch someone saying something bad, because text, Riot system can pick it up with ease. Do you know what I mean? Voice is very, very different. So I'd recommend that. But yeah, the unfortunate reality is, it's a shame that we even have to talk about doing these things, right? You would just hope that a human's a human and is not going to try and abuse someone online. But genuinely, these people there's no repercussions because they're anonymous online. That's the reality of it. So that's why, unless it does become, you have to attach certain things and blah, 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 you have to get all approval, all that good stuff, then the reality is these people are never going to go, because there's no repercussions for their actions. As simple as that, unfortunately. So I think, as much as I don't maybe like the advice of like just mute them and move on, short term is the best solution, like realistically. And then partnered up with OBS, if you can catch them in the act saying something pretty nasty and pretty crude, then you know what to do with it. Do you know what I mean? And follow up that action to get that person banned. I'd hope in most cases it only takes like one ban for somebody to learn their lesson. Most of the time, I think there's definitely some fucking psychopaths out there that continue, but I think that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've been in positions before where, you know, people have said some pretty awful stuff, and I've just watched other team members just fire back, and it just makes the game so unpleasant. I just don't
Mm.
understand what the whole point is in just kind of this whole backwards and forwards. I think I know there's a few pro players that play unmuted, but if it's anything like me, then I feel like I'm missing out on the communication
Yeah.
if I'm muted, and that's where the frustrating thing comes in. And I guess my key thing would be as well, like, if you see somebody else getting abused, then you also have the power to report it, even if it's not you being like abused.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's like, I'm sure there's places on Reddit where you can join up with people who just want to play the game, and obviously that's not always an outcome. I just can't believe we're at this stage where it's okay to say these kinds of things, and the main response kind of be, oh well, it's just words on the internet. You know, you never know what somebody's going through, like, on a daily basis. But this next one was kind of interesting to me because it wasn't so much about what other people have done. It's about how video games can, like, cause your brain to kind of be a little bit more screwed from it. So when you've played a ranked game, League of Legends for me, for so long that it's no longer good for you and you try and quit, it feels like you're wasting all that time you put into it, so you eventually come back to the game to prevent the feeling of guilt for wasting all that time. I think that's really interesting.
Ooh, I'm trying to like soak that up. I don't think I really get it. So it's like
Like, say you
if you just
spend
put stuff.
like 100 hours playing League, but you
Mm,
hate it and you want to give up on it, but then you feel guilty for the fact that you've then essentially wasted that 100 hours.
got you.
It's That's really difficult,
Mm.
and it's really quite sad, that you can get to that stage where you hate it and you want to quit and you can't quit it. It's almost, well, it's not as bad as like an addiction, but it's there kind of. I would like to think that if you're at that point where it's no longer good for you and you want to quit it, it's more about, so the way they kind of tackle like addictions and stuff like that is by lessening how much you do something. So instead of just like cold turkeying it, just like, say you play like 10 hours a week, like, I know
Mm.
those rookie numbers, but like reducing it to like 8 hours a week, to 6 hours a week, to 4 hours a week, to a point that's more like comfortable for you, I guess. I mean, it is really sad, and it also kind of sounds like it's the ranked play that might be throwing people off. This is what I don't understand is,
Mm.
I see people who go into ranked and it's almost as if they can only play ranked, they can't play normals, and they can't play ARAMs and things like that. But I've seen so many players kind of get a mental reset from playing ARAMs and playing normals. But I think there's just such a determination from so many players now to be like almost at pro level, but
Mm.
when you realistically look at it, it's like that very small percentage of players do actually go pro.
It's a tough one. I mean, yeah, I think does anyone like playing League? To be fair, like we're all just addicted and we hate the game, right? It's a tough one. I feel like I only play ARAMs these days. To be fair, I only play solo. Well, I play ranked when it's with my duo. That's it. Like if he's not online, then I just will only play ARAMs and like TFT. Like that's my chill outlet. Ranked makes me fucking angry because you like your four teammates are awful and you're playing against five absolutely insane people. It's not fun. And then my only recommendation would be like try to look elsewhere for that fulfillment. If it is competitive, which maybe it is when it comes to ranked, then look at other competitive outlets, right? Even if it's not gaming, look outside of gaming. See if you can go kind of into the sporting world outside. Hey, touch some grass. Like
Ooh.
God, go get some fresh air. Who likes to do that? But if it's not competitive, it's even easier that there's millions of games out there to kind of like delve into, right? Millions of free games too, right? Especially if it's League of Legends and you only want to play a free game. Do something like I can only play so much League. and it will drive like absolutely do my head in. I love a single player game. I love like single player games that are really immersive and love doing stuff like that. That's my like blissful outlet. Um, so that's my, I guess my generic advice to someone would be. But if it is that competitive edge, then you need something else competitive to fill that gap. And League of Legends is like the one like hoarding all that source right now. So you need to find it elsewhere, whether that's go back to sports, or whether that's some different title that has kind of like a competitive edge to it. There's tons of indie games out there. I've just come back from Insomnia. There's tons of indie games out there that are like slightly competitive and really fun. There's like this third person Halo that I was playing like at the event. It's cool, like it's really fun. So if you've got like, especially if you've got a friend that you like to play with, go explore other games. You know what I mean? And see if you can find one that you both enjoy and have fun with. And you'll find that the smaller the community is, tends to be like a more positive reaction to, because they're all like closely knit and all know each other. There's definitely some games to avoid. Cough cough. Rust is maybe the most toxic. It's like League times 10. I think it's horrific. But there's certain ones to avoid, of course. But yeah, I think try to get that fulfillment elsewhere, because League of Legends is clearly filling that hole. And if you can find something else to fill that, then boom, that's a win.
Even then, I really liked the whole looking at playing ARAMs, because that is you're still playing League, but there's no kind of the competitiveness doesn't matter, because Riot are smart, and until they put in ranked ARAMs, we're all fine until they put in ranked ARAMs, and then everything's just going to go downhill from there. I think as well it's really important as well. I watch a lot of streamers, and I watch a lot of pro players who, even when they're in queue, they don't always like play League. So I was watching Neon from Misfits play some like Vampire the Masquerade like whilst in queue. I watched Alfari play Donkey Kong Country like whilst in queue. League is not the be all and end all, and even the pro players like don't just play League. I mean, obviously you spent so long with Excel, you had your own organization. Like even you can attest to the fact that the guys, they don't always play League. Like there are other fun things on the side, but if it is the competitive edge, then yeah. I mean, I went back to Halo. I went back to multiplayer Halo, and it just kind of it filled that spot, because it was like, I don't know, it was like a mental reset.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
This one, I think it hits a little bit closer to both where me and you have been in esports. So in the esports organisation I was a part of, there's been a lot of queerphobia, sexism and discriminatory language against disabled people. I tried to fight this, but ultimately had to step down from my positions within the organisation and left. Esports is my passion, and this organisation had been a big part of my life for years, so it was heartbreaking. Now I'm completely burnt out from fighting against a system that does not want to change. They want to be seen as inclusive, but are unwilling to enforce rules in their community to protect us. I don't have the energy anymore to face hate every day. It's so depressing to feel hated in gaming spaces when ironically they're what keeps me going. My mental health depends on the joy of gaming, watching esports, interacting with the community, but the same community tears me down. I think we've both been in that position before, where we've just watched everything fall apart. And I think as somebody who's kind of been in that community management position, I guess it's really important that this one's even taken me a little bit.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've always been really kind of on the ball with how people react within the communities that I've always kind of managed. And I've always kind of been really, really quick to shut that behaviour down. I think for a lot of it, it boils down to, you really, really need a good community manager that is willing to kind of take that flack. You've seen me multiple times kind of shut down stuff that doesn't need to be said, but I guess the really important thing from my end on this one is I've been in the same position, and I've come to realize that not every esports organization runs the same way, and there will always be people out there that do support those kinds of, those I can't even think of the word. They, you know what I mean. They support people from all walks of life, and not every esports organization is going to be the same way. Um, and I know that's kind of very like, oh, it's, don't tar everyone with the same brush. And I think that is legitimately what has to be done. Is you keep fighting, because the more you fight, the more people will be on your side. And I never stopped fighting, and now the communities that I'm in, they know not to kind of tread in that kind of area, because they know that I won't stand for it, and I'll never be in a community where the community managers are completely okay with it, because those are the kinds of places that aren't safe spaces. I think there aren't enough safe spaces in esports now, and I think it is down to community managers being a little bit stronger, putting their foot down a little bit more, and saying it's just not, if this isn't a safe space, then we've essentially failed at bringing a fan base together, because we can't have our fans feeling like they're not welcome.
Yeah, it's tough. There's many things you can do. I think the difficulty here is that they've maybe raised it and nothing's being done still about it. There's many things you can do. What we like to do at Hitmarker, if somebody brings us something that maybe isn't directly attached to anything that we've done on our site, so it's just a scummy practice or a bad practice that orgs are doing, what we do is we encourage them to post about it. And when they post about it, we'll engage with it on our Twitter. Do you know what I mean? And we're happy to do that. We're happy to call out the org. And this gets us into trouble all the time, but I think what I've learned is I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I don't care. As long as we're supporting the little guy at the end of the day, it's all that matters. Regardless how small the issue is, calling it out on social media stamps it out immediately. And then look, if it's a minor thing, like today something pretty minor happened that was just like, it's just a pretty scummy thing. It wasn't anything awful, but it was just like pretty naughty from them. Then what you do is you deal with it in the right way, and you make that person understand and maybe understand your point of view, and they'll probably delete the post by the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? If it's not, and if it's further than that, then if anything, it gets shared. That not only does the community manager feel the heat, the whole brand feels the heat, so it reaches the higher ups very, very quickly, right? And it's pretty hard to ignore. People start tagging higher ups. People, like, it's very impossible to like not just browse past. If not, like if you are speaking to community manager and they're kind of throwing you away, and then you've gone to higher ups and they're like ignoring you, then social media is always the route to go down. I'd recommend, like, fuck it. But I think a lot of people would then ask me and go, okay, but Nath, not post. Surely when I post on my social media, does that not give me quite a bad rep that I'm calling this stuff out? And like, I get what they mean, because there is a sense of it where there is an unfortunate reality of those people that always call out the bullshit tend to not be liked very much. Do you know what I mean? Because people are like afraid to be friends with them, because they'll, whatever they might tweet about, whatever. And it's a difficult one. I think the reality is most of the time you have the majority on your side, and that's what matters. You're never going to be able to please everyone. You never will please everyone. Not everybody is going to like you. You're going to have people that hate you for zero reason, and that's the reality of life. So I think go ahead and do it, regardless of your platform, regardless if you have 1 follower or 1,000 followers. It's worth posting, tagging the right people, tagging the people who care. Like Hitmarker, please, if it's anything career related or anything scummy bad practices when it comes to hiring, then you reach out to us, and we'll always be able to share that, regardless who you are. We love sharing stuff like that, regardless of what company it is too. It doesn't matter if the company's paying us thousands or if we've never dealt with them before. It doesn't matter. They're all the same in our book. We're happy to call them out, and happy to publicize this a little bit more, to make them change and talk about it, and kind of change their dealings and change their practices. And then hopefully the other person feels like they've had maybe justice been delivered, right? But there's people to go to, there's people to reach out to, and there's methods to do it. I totally get the exhaustion part of thing, especially when it feels like this is just a constant thing. Gamers like to have this edgy sense of humor, right? However, it's not. Communities are not the place to kind of represent that. Sure, do whatever you want in your own small friend groups, right? But when it comes to a wider community, that's not okay. And it should be accessible and open to absolutely everybody to be able to talk about whatever they want, and everybody should feel welcome. But unfortunately, it's down to the community manager to do that. And all community managers are So most are brilliant. Most are absolutely angels and deserve the world, and are doing way more than any of their higher ups ever will be doing. But some, unfortunately, are bad eggs, like anything in the world, and unfortunately won't take whatever um, uh, query or report seriously. So it won't go anywhere, and you feel like, okay, it's just on me to leave, and nothing else is going to change, right? Which is unfortunate. Um, but there's routes to go about that, whether that's going directly to higher ups, whether that's posting on social media, whether that's reaching out to companies that do care, and expressing your thoughts and sharing kind of like maybe what approach you want to take there. um, Reddit's obviously a great example too. Like there's ways to go about it that will bring change, you know what I mean? And there will always be that option. That's like the love and the hate of social media, do you know what I mean? Is that in reality it's very good and it's a very powerful platform to bring change sometimes, and especially apply the pressure and the heat on certain brands and individuals. Um, which is a good thing for one reason, but also a negative for those that are actually, good people and good clean brands.
So I think it's really important as well that places will only start changing if we start calling things out. But by other people calling things out, you're then empowering the next person who didn't feel like they could call things out, and you can really become a power for change. I mean, shit, yeah, tag Hitmarker, tag me. I'll go, I'll tag whoever I need to, because at the end of the day, we are all capable of making change whether we believe that we can or not. I think that's the big problem, is that there's so many people that feel like they can't make a change in this industry,
Mm.
but they really, really can. So I got one last one, which was it's about the community again. It's stuff like being told I'm a trash human being and to kill myself over an honest opinion on a player or a team is a whole other thing. And yeah, I think that kind of that is the unfortunate of being an esports fan, is, the amount of times that we cannot have honest opinions. And I think this goes back to what you originally said at the beginning of the video as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's down to the people that manage these communities. I truly have started off 22 with just a no care, no bullshit attitude. It really just doesn't bother me anymore what people think of me. If somebody's going to say something outlandish in our Discord, they're gone. It doesn't matter if they've been here for 2 years or if they've been here for 2 minutes. It doesn't matter to me. They get removed and they don't come back. I feel like more brands need to put this in place. Sometimes they feel the pressure and the heat of, if it's a popular member, then getting rid of them will mean other people to leave. Long term, like short term, sure, maybe that sucks because you lose a couple of members of your community. Long term, it's much better because you welcome a 10,000 more. Do you know what I mean? Again, it's down to these decision makers that have to take this action. And if the action is not being taken place and things like that are being said, it's again on you or the other individuals that are witnessing this to put the pressure onto the individuals that make the decisions. That's all that matters. And you're right. Well, like we spoke about last, like the one before, people are only sorry when they're caught. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. It's not new to this industry. Don't get me wrong at all, and that's reality. But at least you get some kind of actual, tangible reaction and response to it. That's the most important thing. That person is removed, or they're given a warning, or whatever, and you feel like justice has been brought up about it. But again, it's the unfortunate reality. If you have to be strong enough to take it up and to want to take it up to a higher up and to want to to bring change to this, right? And I can understand that sometimes just exhausting to get multiple comments say nasty things. It's like, can't be asked to report all these people because I know nothing's going to happen or whatever. But truly, most of the time, if you do bring it to the right people, and if it's not the community manager, then go to the higher ups. And not the higher ups, then you tweet about it. You know what I mean? You post about it publicly. Something will happen. I promise you. Every single time, something will happen with that person. Will get removed. Will get a warning. Some action will follow up from you taking it further. Do you know what I mean? So it's on you to take it further if you feel it necessary to do so. I think there's a clear line to be drew between, look, obviously you're allowed opinion, but other people are allowed to disagree with your opinion too. It draws a line when it turns into just hateful comments. That's no discussion. That's no, that stops this whole, okay, let's have a healthy argument, and now it's just becoming, okay, I'm trying to say nasty things about you and you're trying to say nasty things about me. That's when it draws the line, right? And there's unfortunately people out there that will jump that line very, very quickly, regardless of what you say. So I think it's on you to take the action, unfortunately, or it's on the people around you that see this to take action, but you can't be reliant on these people to do that, because they're not always going to do that. Not everyone's morally... I think a lot of people know it's wrong, but won't want to take it further for some maybe kind of reason. And I'm sure that's down to a multitude of reasons, maybe. So it's on you to do that and take it further. But truly, I promise you this: if you do, 99% of the time, you'll get the response and reaction that you wanted, and it will be worth it. And whether you have to do that 100 times or 1,000 times or just once, know that if it's not only improving your experience in the community, know that it's improving everybody else's, because you're getting rid of individuals that truly offer no value and only decrease, if anything.
I think it's really important to point out as well is, whilst there are loads of communities in terms of like on Twitter that literally will hate brigade you, I've started posting less and less opinions on Twitter now because I just can't be bothered with any potential hate brigades. But not every Discord is gonna be a toxic cesspool. There's been so many communities that I've been a part of where my opinion hasn't been wanted because of X, Y, and Z, you know, gender, ability, whatever. But there's also been like some communities where it's been small, but everybody's ended up becoming really, really tight knit, and everyone kind of starts like defending people against these horrible things. So I guess it's really important to say that not every community is like this. I mean, I have this really, really awful habit of joining like Discords, seeing that they're totally huge, and then getting freaked out by the amount of people because I know there's more likely to be an argument, and then finding comfort in those really, really small Discords for, you know, this, you know, a random person who streams on Twitch to maybe 100 or so viewers or whatever, and everybody's come together. I think differentiating between what is going to be said on Twitter in comparison to having those safe spaces that they're always there. I think, you know, I've stumbled across people at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I haven't been able to sleep, or I've just kind of gone in bored. I think it's the same for kind of most communities. Is there are some real treasures out there, and there are some real welcome places, and I think you'll find 9 times out of 10 now that if you go to a community that's for like a streamer or a content creator or something like that, you're probably, unless it's part of their image, like we've seen the whole like L9 stuff, and you know, I've seen some Twitch chats that just kind of make me think I do not want to touch that Discord with a barge pole. I think you can find some people who do genuinely just want to enjoy the game as much as you do, and I just really hope that the person that, you know, sent that anonymous one in knows that not everywhere is going to be like that. I mean, you know, I've liked players before that have had like really horrible like reputations and stuff like that, or I've been a fan of teams that where everyone's been like, you know, what are you doing? And obviously if this person does want to reach out for a safe space, you know, my DMs are always open. Nathan, I'm sure Hitmarker is a safe space as well for opinions and stuff like that. So yeah, you're not alone, but you're also not the first person who's felt like that. And communities now, I mean, worst comes to worst, make your own community. Like, I don't know about you, but I've got like a Discord that random friends made, and we just chill in there most of the time. And you know, you don't need to be in a community that's, you know, just because it's got like a famous league player in it or something like that. It doesn't, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the place to be. Like, Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'd like to end on like, know that truly the majority of people are good people. The majority of people in communities are good people. Can't give you an exact split, but I'd get a guess like 80 to 20%, 80%, sorry, 80-20 split, 80% being the positive people and 20% being maybe the negatives. Don't let a bad egg spoil the lot for you. Um, don't People tend to focus on, I get this all the time. I'm friends with a good let's say his name, but a pro player in sports who after a game will go on Twitter and will only see the mentions, right? And the mentions, who actually realistically, like when someone tags you in Twitter, especially when you're at that like high profile, it's going to be mostly negative because they're directing it towards you. If you actually search up your name keyword on Twitter, then you mostly see probably the positive comments because they don't tend to tag you, which is quite a weird thing because people don't like to maybe spread as much love as maybe they think they do. And whether that's, going through their head, I don't know. But he was so fed up the other day because he only sees the negatives. He only sees the negatives. When in actual fact, what I was doing during the game was typed in his name on Twitter during the game, and it was all positives. He's only seen the mentions that are negatively saying negative things about him, right? Which is a shame because if you focus on the negatives, you miss all the good. You miss all the good stuff. And genuinely, when I say their opinion is not valuable, I mean it. It means nothing. It needs to go. You need to remove it. Mute block button are a blessing. I'm like one of those people that feel bad for unfollowing certain people. Do you know what I mean? So I'll just mute them. And my mute list is maybe like in the 40, 50 at the moment. And it's fucking wonderful. Clean up my timeline so much. And then if I feel like necessary need to, I'll block people too. I don't care. It's the freedom of having that now. Do you know what I mean? You are able to do that. If someone's annoying you or trying to get a reaction from you, sure, it's also, I quite like sometimes if someone says something just wildly stupid, I love quote tweeting it and taking the piss and just saying like, look at this, like what is that? That is just not even opinion anymore, is it? That's just stupid. And that's fun too, and then you get all that. But what I would say, if you can try and avoid it, don't give them a reaction because they fucking love that. Do you know what I mean? There are generally people like that we sat at their home on their phone, say something stupid under a player, say something racist under a player's tweet, and then we'll like smile as all the responses come through and then just give them all reactions because they don't care. There's no repercussions for them. Do you know what I mean? They can do whatever they want. What's the worst they'll get is maybe a Twitter ban, if that happens. That will never happen. That probably will never happen too, by the way. Very, very rare case. What's the worst that'll happen? That's why I love them accounts out there. There's an account on TikTok that will like someone says something racist, they'll track down if they can, like their location, who they work for, their name, and we'll do like a video about it and just expose them. They'll contact their employer. It's amazing. It's amazing. There's nothing worse than a scare tactic than that. Do you know what I mean? Because most people say these things because they know there's no repercussions for it. They don't. They can do it in pure bliss in the comfort of their home, right? There's nothing that's going to be that's going to happen to them. So when they get hit with the fact that something could happen to them, they're terrified and they never do it again, right? So yeah, what I would say is be positive. Majority of people are really good, genuinely. Don't let the bad ruin the majority, and don't focus on the negatives too. There's many positive and many great people that you can engage with. Don't let the one bad spoiled egg ruin that for you, right?
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that I want to end on is that quite a lot of us have we've seen some really, really dark days when it's come to esports. There's been, I don't know about you, but there's been loads of times where I've just wanted to, throw in the towel and go, no, this is enough for me. But as you said, it does, you got to learn to, it's not all bad. For every bad person, there's going to be like 10 really good people. And I think it's really important as we end this video that while this video wasn't partnered with any organisations, Safe in Our World have some really, really good resources, and those resources will be available not only on our social media, but they will be available at the bottom of this video. If you are in dire straits and really, really need someone, they've got a crisis hub, and it's not just for people in the UK, it's for people all around the world as well. They've got resources for every country in the world. And I think it's really important to say as well that you're not alone. And if you are watching this and you do ever need anybody, please come and talk to me. I never want anybody to feel alone. You're welcome in any community that I manage. And you're going to be just fine. So from me, I just want to say thank you, Nathan, for coming and sitting and chatting to me about this. This has been really kind of, it's been a little bit of an emotional roller coaster in my head, reading some of these things and just kind of, you know, listening to what you've got to say. But no, I do really appreciate you coming on and kind of talking to me about all this kind of stuff, and hopefully we've changed somebody's outlook on esports, even if it's just ever so slightly.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me. I love talking about this kind of stuff. It's a change from talking about social media and careers in esports and all that good stuff, which, don't get me wrong, is fun. But yeah, it's nice to bring up the stuff that doesn't maybe get talked about enough, because it's somewhat of a taboo topic, which it shouldn't be. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, make sure to follow Nathan on socials. That will be posted as well. He gets a little bit of self promo. He's also got pictures of his dog, who's been laying in the background for the entirety of this.
Big Luxie. Oi. She was so out of it then.
Oh.
Hey, speaking about you, me puppy. She's gorgeous, isn't she? Big pup.
So I've been Ali Bear, this has been Nathan, and I just want to say thank you very much for tuning in. And Lux. And little Luxie.